Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to the third and the final webinar in our life-saving series. My name is Pamela Simon, and I'm a member of the Rescue Commission and the Education Committee. I'm also the Learning and Development Manager for Surf Lifesaving Australia. Thank you to everyone for joining the education webinar today. Our thanks must also go to Surf Lifesaving Australia for all of their additional work on this series in terms of graphic design, promotion and technical assistance. Our previous two webinars have been a great success with an excess of 150 attendees each. And the recordings of these can be located on the ILS website if you missed them, or if you would like to share them with your colleagues or revisit them. Today's webinar will also be recorded and will be posted to the ILS website. You will notice that your camera and microphone have been automatically disabled, and this will remain for the duration of the webinar. If you wish to ask a question of the presenter or make a comment, please use the chat function. We will be monitoring this throughout the session this evening. So without further delay, I would like to introduce our first speaker, Ismael Sanes from the Real Spanish Lifesaving Federation. He will be speaking to you about teaching our field of knowledge to people who have difficulties to reach it. Ismael is a member of the ILS Rescue Commission, the Education Committee, and also the Medical Committee. Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you very much, Pamela, for introducing me. And thanks a lot to ILS Federation and also for the Royal Spanish Lifesaving Federation for giving me the opportunity of sharing this presentation with all of you. And well, let's go. Well, when I was preparing the webinar, I was a little bit worried because well, I know that every single country, every single place has its own situation, and sometimes what we prepare of the way of teaching that we have is unuseful or is useless for a specific situation. So I think that it's really important to adapt to the context and the situation. So what I want to do is to give you a useful recommendation for all of you. So I'm going to try it. That's why I have decided to talk about a methodology that is called service learning. Maybe you know, in Spanish it's called aprendizaje y servicio. And this methodology is especially taught for those people who are usually excluded of the possibility of receiving important services from the government or from the society. So I think that this is a good idea or a good tool for drowning prevention skills or for our knowledge or the knowledge that we manage in this institution. Also, I think that service learning can adapt to different contexts and places. So I think that you can find it useful for your own context or place or countries. But honestly, I haven't seen many researches, I haven't seen many studies or publications about life-saving with service learning methodology. So I think that you will like this. Well, first of all, what do we need to develop a service learning project about life-saving? As you can see, service learning only needs few things. The first thing is detecting people who are unprotected against drowning, and I'm sure that you know a lot of people or places in which it happens. Also, we need students that are receiving information or that are attending subjects or degrees of studies in different institutions, schools, universities. So this is what we need. And also experts and teachers that can teach life-saving skills or drowning prevention knowledge. Last but not least, we need will and solidarity, because this kind of project must be developed on a voluntary way. And as you can see, this methodology didn't need or don't need money to be developed. Let's go one by one. Detecting people who are unprotected against drowning is known and is said. This has been said by a lot of international institutions like ILS, WHO, and United Union, for important institutions of this world that's usually says that drowning is especially affect, especially to those people who live in a poverty context. So this is why I have chosen this kind of methodology, because I really think that this can be useful for that situation. In general, people who are usually excluded from the society for different reasons, no matter the reason, sometimes because they are immigrant, because they are refugees, or because their own culture, no matter. The question is that there are a group of people who are usually excluded the possibility of receiving this important information. And also we have a study in a group of work in which I take part, that people with disability, especially intellectual disability, are also people who have difficult to access to this information, because the education that they receive don't include this information for them. So when they get into the water, when they go to aquatic areas, they are taking an important risk. And of course, all the group of people that you can have in your mind. Regarding a student that receive life-saving education, is anyone who wants to become, for instance, lifeguard instructor, sanitary staff, teachers, and other people who want to become professional of this field of knowledge. And also, why not at least because life-saving sport is an sport that include important values like solidarity and the will of helping other people. And also professionals that teach our field of knowledge in different institutions like life-saving federations, sport institutions, school, college, or for instance, in my case, at university. Those are people who can take part in this kind of project. So how does service learning project work? Let's go to a start for teachers. What teachers have to do is to detect people who are unprotected, who live in those contexts that I have said before. So people who are unprotected against drowning can be the focus of this kind of project, and teachers or people who is developing this kind of project have to detect them. Also, it's important that teachers and community members establish the condition of the program or the project, because sometimes they have to reach an agreement for schedule, place, people who are going to take part. So it's important to establish those conditions. And finally, teachers have to offer the possibility of taking part to the students, to taking part of these kind of projects. So as I have said before, it's important not to do this kind of project as something that is compulsory or that is obligatory. The participation of a student must be as a volunteer. This is really important, because if someone doesn't want to participate in this kind of project, it doesn't work. Also, the idea is that the students that have to do internship or placement in the community, in order to teach what they have learned in classes, in this case, when they receive information about life-saving skills or drowning prevention, they have to teach this information to those communities, to those people who are unprotected against drowning. And those two characteristics are really important because internships, the collaboration mustn't substitute other professionals. The idea is to go to those places in which the service is not given by no one. And also it's important that teachers must supervise what students are doing in the community or are teaching to those people. So it's important to establish tutorials, meetings with the students every week or every 2 weeks in order to have a feedback and reorganize and give information to solve problems that a student can have there in the community. Regarding people who receive the service, I have said before that there are a lot of group of people who can be in a unprotected situation against drowning. So the idea is that the community who receive the service hasn't received this information, hasn't received this service. So of course the community must be willing to receive the service, and they have to be compromised with the program. Otherwise, it doesn't work. I would like to say some benefit. There are more benefits of this methodology, but of course there are more. The idea is that people who receive the service are going to improve their protection against drowning because they are going to receive information that they didn't receive before. And also the idea is that when they are exposed to this program, they can also talk and teach to their families, their social context, the information that they receive. So we can protect people who is around people who directly receive the service. And of course, the idea is to change the mind of those people in order to make them to realize that they have the right to receive those important services. In this case, they can claim that they have the right to be safer inside the water. The benefit for the students are also really interesting because they have to they improve their competence because when someone have to teach, has to demonstrate what they have to learn, usually are more demanded with himself. It's more difficult to demonstrate or to show what you know to other people than write an exam or something like that. That is more common in education. Also, they realize that they can help other people, and in general, what we have seen is that they are willing to participate in more solidarity actions because they realize that there are people who need their help. And the benefit for teachers, this is what I have seen, for instance, in my case, is that we can update and adapt what society needs, because sometimes we prepare a subject, the manifesto or the program of a subject with our way of thinking. But in this case, what we do is to adapt to the context, to the situation that students tell us, or what we see that people really needs. And well, this is all, and thank you very much for your attention. I hope you find this recommendation useful for your own context, and I hope you have enjoyed with it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ismail. That was very interesting, and that's great work that you're doing. There's no questions in the chat just yet, but I do have a couple of questions for you. Just wondering if you have done any study specifically about your service learning and life-saving.
Yeah, thank you, Pamela. Yes, we have been working with this field and with this methodology. And the group of people that have received the service in this case was people with intellectual disability. we have taken notice with this researching line that people with intellectual disability are usually excluded the possibility of receiving this information, so they are really unprotected against drowning, because the education that they usually receive doesn't include this information. So when they are in aquatic area, they expose themselves to an important risk, and also put on risk people who is around them, because they have to help them, or maybe the behavior that they have is not correct, or is really risky. So also the conclusion that we have seen with this methodology is that our students, in my case, university students that take part in this kind of projects, improve their level of competence, because I have said before, they have to demonstrate to others what they have learned. So they are more demanding with the activity that they develop. And also most of the conclusion of these studies is that people with disability, intellectual disability, can learn a lot. They can improve the level of security or they can be more safer in the water after the workshop that a student to take part in, like in service learning, develop.
That's great. And just one final question from me then. So again, on the same theme, with regards to around the life-saving area, any problems or difficulties that people might come across with regards to developing a service learning project specifically within that life-saving area?
Yeah, well, as you know, we usually need a pool and other facilities to develop our way of field of knowledge, but sometimes it can be solved with other alternative. For instance, the idea when they have to develop or they have to deliver this information, sometimes is not only a question of doing exercise or activities inside the water. Sometimes the knowledge, the information, for instance, I usually transmit to my students that they have to spread information, knowledge, like never go to a pool or to aquatic area in which there aren't lifeguards, or if you see an accident, or if you see someone who is drowning, what you have to do is to call the lifesaver instead of try to help the people, because all of you know that a lot of people die trying to help, trying to rescue when they are not well prepared. So this information is really important, and you don't need a pool for delivering that information. And also another problem that I usually find is that sometimes, well, this is my specific situation. I teach in the last year of the degree and master degree at university, and they always think, my students think, that they are really busy, and they know that taking part in this kind of projects is more demanding than just make an exam and answer the question that I decide. So sometimes the problem is because the participation of the students can be more compromised.
Great, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing. And just one final question that's come through in the chat from Armando. Is service learning something that they use in the whole country in Spain? Or is it just something with life-saving in Spain? So with your organization?
Yeah, thank you, Pamela and Armando. Well, service learning is a methodology that is spread all over the world. Maybe, as I have said before, maybe in life saving is not very common, but this is not something specific of Spain. In fact, I know that there are a lot of studies about service learning, but it's true. Service learning and life saving is I haven't seen many studies, many projects. So I think that is really interesting for our field of knowledge, because the question is that that this information should be given by education system, by governments, and this is a tool that can solve it, but this is not the definitely solution. The solution must be given by governments and important institutions. This is project that we can develop in order to solve a specific situation that we can have around us. But I think that you can spread this methodology in all over the world. That's the idea of the presentation.
Great, thank you very much. And thank you. It's certainly something that's very transferable, I think, nationally and internationally. So thank you so much once again for your presentation, Ishmael, and we'll move on to presentation number 2. So our
Thank you very
next
much.
speaker, thank you. Our next speaker is Ashen Molan from the Iran Lifesaving and Diving Federation. And he's going to be speaking to us about the removal of C-spine injury without the backboard from the pool. Ashen is a member of the ILS Rescue Commission and also the Education Committee. Thank you, Ashen.
Thank you, Pamela, and thank you, Adam. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, or good evening to all my life-saving friends in all around the world. And I would like to thank you, the ILS, to having me here and giving me the chance to do my presentation. I represent the Iranian Life-Saving Federation, and I'm going to do the presentation about the removal of the C-spine injuries without the backboard from the swimming pool. So next slide, please. All right, so as we know, the head and neck injuries in aquatics is a serious concern and can cause numerous of complications, from a simple disability to severe disabilities, as well as death. As a member of the Life Saving and Water Safety Development Coalition in the Iran Life Saving and Diving Federation for the Middle East and West Asia region, I have seen that the spinal board is not a part of the aquatic facilities in many countries in those regions yet. And also in many other countries, they don't use the spinal board as a must equipment in aquatic facilities. In this webinar, we are going to discuss and show how lifeguards can remove a person with head and neck injury from the pool if there is no spinal board available. So we still do believe the spinal board is the best and safest tool for a head and neck injury removal from the pool. However, this procedure could be one of the best alternatives in lifeguards if lifeguards do not have access to the spinal board. Next slide, please. So head and neck injury is a common accident in aquatic facilities. Head and neck injury could cause some severe and complication problems and could fatal too. And head and neck injury in aquatic is known as the third cause of the severe injuries in most countries. You can see the line for the reference over there, and head and neck injury also has lots of post-injuries complications which can affect the person, his family, and as well as the healthcare system. Role of the lifeguards in this kind of emergency is very vital and crucial, and therefore they can make a big difference if they do a good thing and can deal with the emergency situation like C-spine injuries. Please, next slide. What is the head and neck injury in aquatics? Any damage to the head, neck, and or both parts according to lack of precautions or dangerous action and or accidental events in aquatic facilities and or aquatic activities. So facts and statistic about that, a couple lines regarding, in short part regarding to that, is most of the casualties are male, 82%. You can see the reference line under, and then most of the casualties are young, 17 to 2 years of age, and most diving injuries occurs water 1.5 meter deep, 95%. So the good news is almost all the head and spine injuries in aquatics could be preventable. Please, next slide. Cause of the head and neck injuries in swimming pool. So main causes can be diving shallow water, dangerous actions, and no follow the safety rules. Please, next slide. Okay, thank you very much. What are the signs and symptoms of head and neck injury? Signs and symptoms of head and neck injury can be very different, but more common signs and symptoms include severe pain, pressure, stiffness, deformity, bump in the injured area, as well as signs of shock, difficulty breathing and no breathing, severe headache, dizziness, nausea, vomiting, anxiety, confusion, decreased level of consciousness and unconscious, lack of balance, unequal pupil size, clear fluid or blood coming from the ears, nose, and convulsion. Please, next slide. Okay, spinal board is the best and safest way, as we mentioned, but the fact is, as I already talked about that, not all the lifeguards around the world have access to the spinal board. Okay, so if you go on the next slide, you can see the rescue procedure in case of C-spine injury in the pool and removal of the injured person without the spinal board. So there is 9 steps for that. I read the first step all the way down to the 9th all the way. But one thing is later on, I have a couple short clips for that. And also I have pictures, and then I can talk more about that detail. So number 1, emergency recognition with assessment of the mechanism of injury. Contact the emergency medical service system. Entry with the minimum water movement, and also approach to the injured person, immobilization of the head and neck as soon as possible, roll over or reposition the injured person into the supine, facing up position, and moving injured person to the suitable spot before removal. Removal of the injured person from the pool to the pool deck, and primary survey of the injured person and make the right decision for this situation. Please go for the next slide. Okay, for immobilization of the head and neck injury, we have 3 different ways. And for the first one is immobilizing with the arms under armpits technique rollover. We have a little clip for that. And number 2 is immobilizing with a wide grip technique rollover. And number 3 is immobilizing with a log roll technique rollover. So the number 3, we have the type 1 and type 2 of that. Please go for the next slide. That's a little like a clip, if you don't mind, because the word on this short clip is not in English. So would you please just turn off the the sound on the clip over here? So okay, so just give me 1 second. All right, can you please run the movie? Okay, so okay, the first one is hands goes under the armpit, immobilize the head and neck, and roll over. So it shows you from different angles. I guess everybody as a lifeguard instructor are familiar with this method. So this is one method, but we are not going to use that for without the spinal board. It's just extra information compared to the other method. Okay, the next one is the Y sweep, and then this one, like a lifeguard, go and immobilize the head from front and face and head, and then roll over the person. So shows you from different angles over there too. And the next one and the last one, we need that one for our procedure here. We are talking, it's like a log roll over. So you can see there is in 2 ways. Number 1, when we roll the patient, the lifeguard stay in the same side he started, And the second one is when the lifeguard roll over the patient actually travel to the other side. You can see on next procedure here. So the lifeguard on the first one is going and stay on the same side after rollover, and the second one, the lifeguard go and roll over the patient and then go to the other side. Please go to the next slide, please. Okay, and now, so without the spinal board, we must use the log roll technique, arm splint technique. So as you know, the last one was the arm splint technique. And then what we have to do, move the injured person to a suitable spot before remove her or him out of the pool, and remove the injured person with caution, and also according to the procedure detail, and do the primary survey to make a right decision for the injured person as soon as possible. If you go to the next slide, please. The next slide, the next part is showing you how we can go and remove the patient after rollover using the log roll. And in that case, we need 2 more lifeguards, means all 3 lifeguards, or 2 lifeguards and also a patron or a bystander. So if you don't mind, just turn off the sound and run the clip. Okay, you can see first we're going to go on recognition and then contact the EMS and then inform the other lifeguard there is an emergency situation, you're coming in, and then immobilize the head and neck, roll over, and then lifeguard in that case go and put the hands under the like a certain spot of the patient, and on 1 and 2 and 3 they're going to go and lift the patient and put on top of the deck beside the pool. And then so the third lifeguard or the third guard coming out and then go and do the C-spine support, and then the first guard going and do the primary survey and any kind of procedures they need. But before that, they need to go and immobilize the head and neck and put the arm back over there. So the second guard, or can be like a bystander, so holding the person, supporting the person from inside the pool. So if you don't mind, please go to the next slide. Okay, so now we are going to watch the procedure step by step.
David,
and here, okay, so in here, I do have the picture. Sorry, the picture is not very clear because of the copyright. I couldn't get any other picture, and then I took the picture from the clip over here. If you go for the next slide, please. So the step 1, rescue procedure, recognition and entry. So if you go to the next slide, please. Step 2, immobilization and roll over, log roll. Step 3, the other guards come in to help, coordination and cooperation. And next step, step 4, it's removal and support. In here, if you take a look to the first guard who has the head, so during that removal, he supported the head and neck. And also if you take a look to the like a hand of the guard, you can see the finger, it's the forearm is angled to the other side and it's not behind the patient head. So the head after this part is very gentle, stay down on the floor. And then the other guard's hands is under the like a hip bone and under the back, between the shoulder blades, and the other guard is between the like on the hip part, the third guard, and holding the legs from the like somewhere around ankle. And one thing is we cross the legs because we don't want to the leg is become unstable. So please, next slide. And number next is we are going and step 5, we are going and do the assessment and consideration of the patient. Okay, so please go for the next slide, please. Thank you very much. And so let's talk about the advantage and disadvantage of this method. Okay, advantages. Possible to remove the injured person without the spinal board. It is practical and easy to learn by lifeguards. It is almost a quick procedure and therefore could save golden times. It has a good support for the head and neck during the removal. Possible if there are only 2 lifeguards and 1 patron or bystander. Please go for the next slide. And disadvantages here is not as safe as using a spinal board, not easy for the overweight and bulky and or muscular shoulders people. And also lifeguards should have a perfect communication, otherwise it's risky. If used a patron or a bystander, lifeguards must have very clear guideline for the patron or bystander role and actions, and therefore it can be time consuming. And also if procedure rushed could make the removal not very safe. Please go to the next slide. Conclusion here. So head and neck injury is a crucial emergency in every aquatic activities, which can cause severe damage or even death. Spinal board still is not used in many countries, and therefore not all the lifeguards have access to the spinal board. Lifeguards who do not have spinal board must know how they can remove any injured person safely from the swimming pool. There is still no aquatic rules and regulation guidebook in many countries, and therefore usage of spinal board is not a must. Solutions. We need to inform the ILS members about the importance role of the spinal board in every aquatic facilities, and also we need to teach and train lifeguards instructor in those countries where they still not have access to the spinal board in their aquatic facilities. So next slide, please. If there are any questions or concern, I'm more than happy to answer.
Thank you very much. That was very interesting, Ashin. There's a couple of questions that have come through in the chat. But just a couple. I'm not sure how many of you were attended the medical webinar, but we did hear in that about the use of sea collars and about how they're not recommended for lifeguard training. Do you have a view on that?
So I didn't have the chance to watch that webinar. I was out of the town and during that time. So because of that, I cannot give any suggestions or anything regarding to that.
That's okay. Another question then. So traditional lifeguard training does spend quite a bit of time normally on spinal management and the teaching of those skills. So based on the number of actual times that we need to put those skills into action for spinal injuries that happen, should we be spending more time on actual rescue techniques and less on spinal management techniques?
I can say yes and sometimes no, because, for example, if we are dealing with so a swimming pool that is not too too deep, and then it's very crowded, as I can see in different countries, and then we have to concentrate on the head and neck injury as well. And some countries and some swimming pool and facilities, yes, we can go and then work more on the rescue skills and other kind of things there.
Okay, thank you. And a question then from the chat from Samir Donnelly. Where can we use wise grip method, shallow, depth, or deep water?
So, so the wise grip one is very good for if you're using the spinal board. If you're using the backboard or spinal board, the wise grip is the best method to use dealing with the C-spine injuries, and then it's good for the shallow and also for the deep as well. But if we do not have the spinal board, then we cannot use the wise grip because we have trouble to remove the patient with the good support of the head and neck inside the pool to outside of the pool.
Okay, great. I'm just checking if there's any more questions coming through. Andrew Chan had asked about if there was a reason why spinal board is not used to provide greater support and stability for the injured person, but I believe you'd answered that it was for whenever there wasn't access to a board for the reason, but that's correct, isn't it? Yeah.
That's correct, because just a short answer about that one. So as with my personal experience, when I'm traveling over the seas, I can see still in many countries, when I go to the swimming pool or any other aquatic facilities, they do not have spinal board, or they do not, or some places, for example, in one country you go, some places they have it and some places they don't have it. And then so it's not like, for example, like Australia or Canada, that's a must, and a part should be a part of the like aquatic facilities. Not like that. Not in all around the world.
Okay, thank you. I think that's all of our questions. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Perfect.
That's very interesting.
Thank you so very much. And thank you again from the ILS friends, Iranian Lifesaving Federation, and also my Canadian Lifesaving friends over here. And thank you from Pamela, Adam, and Lifesaving Society Australia. So surf, and then the Royal Lifesaving. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, and we're moving on now to our final speaker for this evening, who is Dr. David Spillman from Sobrasa in Brazil. And he's going to speak to us about recycled CPR mannequins. David also spoke at our first webinar, the medical webinar, and he's a member of the ILS Medical Education and Drowning Prevention Committees. Welcome, David.
Hello, everyone. I'm glad to be here. And I'm sorry I was not able to get it on the computer. I tried three different computers, and it didn't work. And I came into a conclusion that this is a revenge from our winning the last surf competition. And let's move on. Do you have my presentation, or because I can share with by using the phone? If you have it, I will glad that you share for me. Or
I
maybe
don't believe you have the PowerPoint, David. No.
No, but Ismael has it. I think I sent him just a few minutes ago.
Yeah, I only have received the video, the link, but
that's
sorry,
fine. That's
David.
fine. Play the video. It's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm David Spielman. I'm a medical doctor, director of Sobrasa. Hi, I'm Kevin Moran from New Zealand, a retired lecturer in physical education at the University of Auckland and a lifeguard for over 50 years.
Prevention is 99% of the lifeguard work. It's so important. But sometimes things going wrong, and then we need to do a CPR on drowning.
Yeah, and the important thing about CPR is teaching everyone, not just lifeguards, but everyone. Parents in the home, bystanders on the street, everybody should learn how to do CPR. And the simplest way of doing it, David has developed here for no cost piece of equipment that anybody can make. Schools, children, adults, anybody. Let's have a look at it, David.
Yeah, ventilation is so important. So we did this giving value to the ventilation. Have a look. I will do it. Check the victim. It's no response. Please call 911 or 1193, whatever they call the number is in your country. Open the airways and see, feel, and listen. If no ventilation, give 5 ventilation.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
If no response, Kevin will start to do CPR at the
position?
compression. Yes. And you do 30 compression. It's easy, and then you can save a life. It's okay. It doesn't need to go 30. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And see you guys.
Good luck.
Thank you.
And we can do this by giving a very simple and quick manikin and try at home and teach everybody. And that's it.
I think it's fine. It's fine if you vote. So what is the main point on to do a recycled CPR mannequin is the cost. And if you have a mannequin that it's very cheap and available for everyone at their home, you can train more, you can give more attention to this drowning issue, and also you open a space to talk about education, talk about water safety, talk about prevention. So it's a very interesting thing. For example, for us in Brazil, a little wine costs 2 minimum salaries, and it's not available for everyone. And with the coming of a pandemic, COVID-19, the problem increased as we are not able to share a mannequin on a class. So if everyone has your own mannequin, do it by yourself, it will be very interesting. And also, I wanna highlight that for drowning, ventilation is so important, and the mannequin has to accomplish this part of the issue, and also that there is a group called Do It Yourself Mannequin Research Group, which is a project by Swiss Lifesaving Federation, and it's very interesting that they are trying to compare do-it-yourself mannequins among many different ones around the world. And also, I want to finish by saying that Professor Roberto Barcala did a pilot quantitative cross-section study comparing Lardo mannequin with this one made by plastic, and what he find out with 150 cases was that this mannequin is a little better than the little end. And why is that? Because probably the people who are training are trying this every day at home, and they are able to use in a daily basis and they can teach your parents, you can teach your brothers and the neighbors. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, David. That was great work and very interesting to see. Just while some questions come through, I have a question for you. How important, and I probably know the answer to this, but how important do you think it is to practice on these new sophisticated mannequins that you can purchase? Or do you think it's just as effective using the device that you have presented?
Yeah, what I find out as a medical doctor and looking for the anesthesiologist room and all the equipment available for doing the anesthesia for the patient is that sometimes we forget the patient and pay attention too much at the equipment. So it's the same when you use sophisticated mannequin. They are pay attention to the equipment, not to the patient. And it's like my friend used like to say, it's toys for the boys. And I like to be simple, available for everyone. We already made a registration from this mannequin for a trademark, not to sell, but to be sure that this will be available for everyone to do it at home. And I think this is the best purpose that will be available for everyone.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. There's no other questions coming through, so we might thank you very much there, as we just have a few moments left coming up to our finishing time. Thank you very much, David, once again for your time and your presentation.
Thank you. I'm sorry for not having the full presentation for you, but I will share the link of the video in English, and everyone can do it at home. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that concludes our presentations for the education webinar and for this webinar series. We hope that you have enjoyed them and found value in them. To help to improve and to inform how we're delivering these webinars, please do take a few minutes to complete the short survey that we have provided for you. A link is provided now in the chat, and you will also be emailed a link to that following the webinar this evening. Please also remember that World Drowning Prevention Day is on the 25th of July, so only a few weeks' time. Please check the ILS website for some more details on that and some events that will be happening around that. And once again, thank you very much to all of our three presenters who presented this evening, and for our sessions, and to all of our presenters over our series of webinars that we have had over the last 3 weeks. We hope that you have enjoyed today and have had the opportunity to go back and listen to the recordings, or have had the opportunity to at least join 1 or 2 of those. And please, everyone, from me, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.